Welcome to another episode of the Destination Linux podcast.
Welcome to episode 90 of Destination Linux. This is a podcast of opinions made up by three allegedly semi-intelligent guys discussing our passion for Linux. I'm Rob, and with me today is Michael. How are you, Michael?
Pretty good, thank you.
Good. And Ryan. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. It's good to be back home.
Okay, so Michael, what have you been up to this week?
I have been working a lot on setting up some new recording setup, things like that. But mainly, here's a good story. So I was working on this product review for my channel, and I've been working on this one for a little while, like a couple months.
6-9 months.
not that, no, maybe, I don't know, a long time. But anyway, so I'm doing the recordings, and it's perfect, and I've re-recorded the same thing like 6 times now. But I get to this part where I'm so ready. I'm going to edit it. I'm almost done. It's just I'm so excited to be done with it. And then I realized that 30% of the audio for the video is in the webcam audio, and it's terrible. Nice. So I got to redo that part. Yeah, that's fun. So yeah, doing videos.
This will be dropping New Year 2019, yeah? At
this point, I have no idea.
Yeah, whatever the product is, you all can look forward to seeing it on his channel someday.
It's going to be this coming week for sure. Well, actually, it might have already been posted. We'll see.
Let me tell you, I've seen a preview of it. It's pure fire. It's pure fire.
Pure fire.
And they're bringing out the next version next week.
Probably.
Who knows?
And anything else, or just that?
Well, there's a lot of stuff I've been doing, but mostly as far as Linux goes, it's pretty much that. Just trying to work on making some videos and organizing some new ways of doing the show. And I mean, if you're watching the video version, you'll notice that we have reordered the location of everybody, and including whoever's going to be hosting the show will be in the first slot. And as you can tell, Zeb is hosting the show, so he's in the first slot. And it's going to be every time the host changes, which is every week, the boxes will change as well. So it just makes it a little more dynamic for the video. And also because it makes it fun for the thumbnails to be different as well.
It's going to be so funny when this video goes out and none of that's the case. Zeb will be over here.
It's all accurate. I made sure before we started this morning. It's totally good.
Fantastic.
Sounds good. Great stuff. So Ryan, I mean, apart from not being here, what have you been up to this week?
Yeah, well, I spent some time in Denver, Colorado. Absolutely loved it. Had a fantastic time doing a code-a-thon with my team, something we stole from the Linux community, kind of knocking out some things from our real-life job. But when I got back, I decided to drop a new Nextcloud instance on Linode and set that up with QO notes, Markdown editor, and basically take all of the 2 years of notes that I had in Simple Note and move it to my own Nextcloud server, as well as some media projects and things like that. Really just to do it because I haven't done it again, but also because Nextcloud is now a snap package, which makes it super easy to set up. So basically you drop, an Ubuntu server on, or you could use your own server, of course, but I dropped one on Linode. You could drop one on DigitalOcean. You install the Nextcloud server via the snap, which takes, no time at all. And then you do just a very minor amount of configurations, opening a couple ports, those type of things, and boom, you're good to go. They also have an Android and iOS app, so it's a complete solution where I can upload media from my phone to the server. I can also upload, obviously, any text files or documents and things that I'm working on to the server. So I'm a big Simple Note freak. I love Simple Note. I've been using it for a long time. But, having your own server, having control over your own content, and being able to have backups of that is really cool. So that is a super simple. It took me less than an hour to get from dropping the server to being done. So it's a very simple and fun project, and you can learn a lot along the way to go set up. And you can go with the minimal server for DigitalOcean or Linode, and it's powerful enough to run it. So there you go.
Very nice. And also just the way when I tested the first time, they was like, oh, it snaps for Nextcloud. Great. Like that's gonna be like potentially easier. And then when I actually used it, I was like, this is so easy, it's ridiculous. Like,
yeah, I don't think I've ever dropped a server as easy to set up as Nextcloud. And that would, by the way, I've done Nextcloud the other way, and it's not easy. Like,
No.
I mean, it's not hard. It's just there's a lot of settings and configurations and things you got to go through. The snap just makes it so easy.
Yeah, it's mainly just tedious the regular way, but like
Exactly.
the snap way, it's just snap install and you're pretty much done.
Yep, it's beautiful.
Sounds like a good idea. So once my simple note gets full up, I'll give you a shout and you can talk me through it.
Sounds good.
Yep. So moving on to what is rapidly turning into my favorite section of the show. Ryan, can you tell us about our email this week?
Yeah, we got a beautiful email this week. I absolutely love it for multiple reasons. So I'm going to read this one here kind of verbatim because it's short and it's to the point and has a lot of great information into it. So it says, hey guys, I'm a longtime Linux enthusiast, and I just wanted to tell you a story that illustrates how great Linux is for the intellectually disabled community. I have a couple friends that have some intellectual disabilities. For the last few years, I have been their primary tech support person. A couple years ago, I started getting tired of reinstalling or fixing Windows literally once or twice a month for them. So I tried an experiment and put one friend on Linux Mint Mate. I showed him how to keep it updated, get software, etc. Eventually, he got the other friend to switch, and I installed the same distro. They both have full sudo rights. I've barely seen their laptops in almost 2 years. They've been able to keep them up to date and use them without any issues at all. They tell me often how Linux makes a whole lot more sense and how much easier it is to use than Windows. One of them was even able to get into digital art. He got an ancient Wacom tablet from a thrift store that had no chance of running on anything newer than Windows XP. He's now using that in Krita to make the art that he could never afford to do otherwise. These are just some reasons why Linux rocks and Windows sucks. Anyway, keep up what you're doing. You guys run a good show. Ryan is amazing, informative, and he's humorous.
Oh, here we go again.
Oh, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that was it. You guys run a good show. It's informative and humorous. All the best. Task Z. So that is an incredible email on so many fronts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have a situation here where an individual is obviously helping support intellectually disabled community, which is amazing. You have the situation where using Linux in place of Windows makes that job so much easier. And you have a situation in which Linux allows individuals that may not have a ton of money or resources at disposal to use still fine working hardware, but outdated by Windows standards in a Linux situation to produce things. It's just absolutely fantastic.
The really cool about the Wacom tablet, because the Wacom tablet is like there's so much work making those tablets work. Like there's actually a project specifically made that's just to make tablets, and even like esoteric tablets, like random things I've never heard of until I found this project, where their entire purpose is to just make these types of tablet work with different software like Krita and stuff like that. So the amount of effort we put, the amount of effort that the community puts in is amazing. Even in like these small like things you wouldn't expect to have that much effort in, just like tablet support and stuff like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's now made them self-sufficient and hasn't had to go and tinker with anything for 2 years, that's just a testament to how solid and well Linux runs.
Oh, yeah.
Set it up, leave it, and it just keeps going forever. That's fantastic.
Yeah, my favorite example of every time I switch someone to Linux, it's that they don't ask me for help anymore because I don't need to. And that's the best thing, is like when people, what's the reason to switch to Linux is you don't have to hassle with all the kinds of issues that you would with another system. So that's the main reason.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's great. So remember, how do you use Linux? Send us an email on how you use Linux and the applications that you have found to accomplish your work, and send those through to comments@destinationlinux.org, and you might find yourself featured in the show one week. So on to distro news, and unless you've been asleep for the last 3 or 4 days, I think everybody's worked out that Ubuntu have now released their 18.10 beta, along with all of the other flavors as well. And there's some noticeable features that they've included in there now. I mean, apart from the fact that they've got this weird name called Cosmic Cuttlefish, I still just amazed.
But the wallpaper looks good for this.
Yeah, it's a really nice wallpaper.
Whoever it was a community developed wallpaper probably, but it was well done. Whoever did it, fantastic work.
Yeah. So what they're saying about this is they've now got faster installs thanks to the Z standard compression being used, which is a compression algorithm developed by Facebook
Gross.
features faster uncompression of the data. Wow,
Yes.
I can see Ryan's going to be no longer using Ubuntu because it's got that Facebook connection.
Yeah, at first I was like, that's disgusting. Why would we want to use anything from Facebook? But I guess they open sourced it and it's fine. But, just seeing that name in there in the Linux article made me hiss like a vampire seeing garlic,
Well, it is open source, so it's not as bad, and it's actually a pretty good algorithm too. But it is annoying. There's a few things that Facebook makes that are decent. Like they have a couple open source schematic systems for like their enterprise servers and stuff. So it's not 100% bad, just like 99%.
Yeah. And they've upgraded the kernel to 4.18, which is going to come with a lot of performance and updates and hardware support under the hood. And I'm assuming that's going to be good for Team Red, Ryan?
It's going to be really good with Team Red. And in fact, I got a message in Telegram from the podcaster. I guess we'll name now. I guess we can name him Martin Whitpress, because he's kind of redeemed himself from the moment when I went into his release notes and stuff. So I guess I have to use his name. So Martin sent me a telegram, and he's been lobbying for Team Red, and he wanted to let me know that in Mate 18.04.2 and also all flavors of Ubuntu 18.10s, they're going to include a hardware enablement stack that's going to ship there, and basically that's going to provide better support for the AMD RX Vega GPU line and discrete graphics found on the Vega lines throughout. So this is just more work that they're doing to make things run smoother and faster. And I'm assuming Martin got himself a Vega 64, which is why he put work into this. But he's been positioning this or pushing this for better support within the Linux distributions in Ubuntu. And we will see that work in 18.10. I, for one, am super excited to see the performance gains that it gets with that, and so happy people like him are out there doing work to make it more compatible, to make it faster, to get the performance out of these cards.
Yeah.
Yep, and I'm happy for you because you'll be able to see the sort of performance that I've been used to on Team Green for a while now.
Oh, wow, Zeb. You mean once you finally get to boot into the distro?
Well, I wasn't going to let you get away with all that glorious...
Well, I mean, it's really cool that they're doing this, especially the enablement stack that they're doing. Like, it's been available in Ubuntu in general, but you have to activate it. The having it by default is fantastic, and especially they're porting it back to the 1804 version. So that's really cool that they're putting that much effort into it, because I don't have a Team Red, but I want to. So
yeah,
it's going to be nice when I first install it, and I don't have to worry about what Zeb dealt with.
Absolutely.
So, but there's also some really cool things that are happening as well for other, specifically about the official, like the proper version of Ubuntu. I know this is kind of silly, but I think it's important because it hasn't been changed in years. So the 1810 version is going to get the new theme, the Yaru theme, replacing Ambiance, and they've had Ambiance, I think, like 10 years now, something like that. So it's really nice for to get an upgrade to like the modernize of the design, and it looks quite good actually.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see how many of the truly old Ubuntu users though sort of wake up and freak out because is this Ubuntu? It's got these new colors on here.
Well, thankfully they keep changing the interface, so it's not. They probably already got that jump.
They're used to it. Yeah.
They get a new theme, they get new icon sets, and improvements to snaps across the board for 18.10, faster startup speeds, verification for publishers, which is a good thing, and snap mounts hidden in the system monitor, so you're not sitting there looking at dozens of snap mounts in the system monitor, which just makes sense.
Yeah, those were one of the things that people complained about just because they didn't want to see them anymore. And I agree, they were kind of weird, but it's nice that they're taking care of that. Also, it's good to point out that Ubuntu is having a massive update for the next release for 1810 because they're switching to LXQt and they're switching to Calamari's installer and all kinds of stuff. So I look forward to trying out like what's coming with that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, I don't know the excitement level. Maybe some people want Ubuntu to stay the way they were or whatnot, but all of this change going on in Ubuntu makes me want to try it again more than ever. And last time I was playing in the beta, I was super impressed. Again, the only thing that search in that menu just gets me, but outside of that, it was very, very stable and beautiful. So hopefully there's some work there.
I tried it out recently too, and I compared it to an Arch system I had that was using i3, and the LXQt was lighter.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
But,
I was
just so you
surprised.
know, Ryan, they have fixed the search in LXQt. It's now functional. And I think they've now changed it so that the default is off, so that when you've done your search and then gone away and come back to it, the search screen is now empty.
That's
Nice.
beautiful. That's
Yes.
beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. It was a right mouse click properties and untick it, but now it's off by default. So
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, now I definitely got to give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, it wouldn't be a show without our next topic. So away you go, Michael.
Well, of course, it wouldn't be a show unless if Michael didn't talk about KDE in some way, of course. So the next topic is KDE Neon has been rebased to 18.04 for the LTS core. So it used to be 1604, and now it's 1804. And this is very much, been long awaited by a lot of people, including myself, because I use both Ubuntu and KDE Neon. And this is one of the things that I look forward to using. I haven't upgraded yet, but I have a lot to, back up and make sure that I have ready to go for the next, for the upgrade, because I'm not going to just do it.
Well, are you
Right.
somebody who, is there a reason you're waiting other than, hey, I don't have time to do it right now? Do you wait a certain cycle after these release before you upgrade to them, or do you just?
Well, okay, so not normally. It depends on what it is. Like if it's a straight Ubuntu update, those are usually fine. You don't have to worry about it, because if it's just like Ubuntu proper, there's rarely is there an issue. The reason why I'm waiting for this particular one is because I want to make sure I have all the backups that I need, and multiple backups that I need. Because if you go to the upgrade page, they have when you go to the Neon website, there's a little link that says upgrade now, and on that page where it gives you the stuff, it tells you how to do it and everything. There's a section that says, we took in a lot of consideration for the upgrades and everything, but if you're using anything that's non-KDE stack or non-KDE application, that there is a possibility that your system will be messed up in some way and might not even boot. And because I've been using Neon for like 2.5 years now, I have a ton of applications that are not KDE stuff. So I want to make sure that, they also say specifically PPAs, which I have a bunch of those, so I want to make sure that before I do an upgrade, I have everything ready to go just in case.
Is there like a general timeline though that you should wait before when these new ones release, like KDE Neon? Have you ever noticed a pattern of generally if you wait 2 to 3 months, they'll work most things out? Or is it within a couple of weeks?
Well, it depends on the distro. Usually, if you wait for the point release, it's usually that's pretty much what you do.
That's the most stable.
That's the most. The difference is if you're going from LTS to LTS like Ubuntu, the point in the release is the one that they suggest that you wait for. But if you are just going from the regular release to let's say you're going from 1710 to 1804. That will be you can do it immediately because they've already tested it extensively, and they're very similar to each other than like some of the core packages being updated. So it should be fine to just go back back to back really quickly. But if you're going from LTS to LTS, there's usually a massive difference in the core, so it's better to make sure that they wait for the point release. And in terms of like other distros that are like Fedora that does it like once a year or so, they are more of a not really a rolling distro, but they do have the intent is to have it constantly updated. As soon as the next one comes out, you upgrade. So a few of them, it's different for each one of them, but I would say you could probably wait like a week or two just to say the first bugs are addressed if you want to, because there's usually a lot of people testing. So if you wanted to,
that was going to be my recommendation too. Is go to the bug reports of these and check out if people with similar hardware, what kind of issues they're having, whether that's a deal breaker for you specifically before you go and hop. Because I know the excitement is there where you just want to, it's out, it's fresh, it's new.
Yeah.
But the bug reports are pretty easy to go read through fairly quickly. I think they have a couple hundred bugs out there right now that they're working on. Some of those are just submitted and they may not even be legitimate or one-off issues. Some are legitimate. So, go check that out and make sure it's not something that's a deal breaker for you before you go and jump over.
Yeah, I agree. You should definitely make sure that you have everything, and also have everything backed up before you do it, just in case. Because while it's most of the time when you upgrade your Linux system, there's not going to have anything go wrong, but there could be, and there's no reason to not have a backup.
So, quick question with regard to these PPAs. Could you not simply comment them out In
Yes.
your have you repo list before?
Technically, the upgrader should automatically disable them, just because the way that Ubuntu does it as well. Because Ubuntu will turn it off automatically as well.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that the Neon will do that. But the difference is, Ubuntu has the compatibility with Ubuntu is different from the compatibility with Neon, because they are they're changing a lot of the core. And while they still support PPAs, they don't they change enough, and they handle their own, the Debian controls the Qt packages, whereas or KDE Neon controls it themselves. So there could be some differences between the two and stuff like that. So it's just better to I don't know if there's going to be any problems with the PPAs, so I can't really say for sure. But I think my test will be a great test to see what happens, because I've been using it for so long and I have so many different things installed that it could be, if it works for mine, it will probably work for pretty much anyone.
Yeah. So again, is that because the Ubuntu PPAs normally have a /Xenial or a / Cosmic and if they're rebasing on 1804, all of your PPAs will be Xenial based, I would imagine.
It'll still be Xenial, so it'll disable them, and once you re-enable them, it'll say use the Cosmic one.
Yeah.
So by default, when you install one of them, it'll just pick whatever you're currently using.
Yeah.
So when I saw this article, one of the things I started thinking about is Ubuntu versus KDE Neon.
Right.
And there was a article that talked about a simple way to think about the differences. Want to get your opinion on there, Michael. It says Ubuntu provides a frozen snapshot of KDE technologies, often on top of a newer Ubuntu base, while KDE Neon provides the latest KDE technologies on top of a frozen Ubuntu LTS base. Is that a good comparison between the two?
It's roughly about the same, about what it is. It's more of the Ubuntu is more of a stable offering, whereas Neon is more of a rolling-ish offering. So the Ubuntu releases are going to be more stable. So if you want to have Plasma and you want to have the most rock solid version of Plasma you can get, that would be Ubuntu 1804, and just use that. But if you want the latest version of Plasma, then you can choose whether you want to have an 1804 core or you want to roll with the next version of the update for the main core. So if you want to have everything updated at all times, then you could just go with every 6 months, go with Ubuntu. But if you want to use the core of 1804 and have the rolling Plasma, then Neon would provide that. But as far as which one you should choose, it's hard to say because it depends on the user. So if you want the most rock solid, I would go with Ubuntu. But as far as my decision, I have no ability to make that decision, so I use both of them.
There you go. You're I love them both so much.
I can't choose.
Yeah. So speaking of loving a distro a lot, Solus 3.9999 ISO refresh is out. So while our good friend of the show, Ike, is completing his recent move from Ireland and getting settled in there, the work on Solus continues, and that team has rolled out this latest refresh, which makes it very easy to update your system when they do these type of refreshes, because instead of having to sit there for 10 years while it updates all of the changes that have happened since the first time they released the ISO, you've got this new fresh ISO that contains all those recent fixes and updates from the past. So definitely going to be welcome for the very beloved Solus in our Telegram group, because our Telegram group loves Solus a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's definitely a lot of fans in there for there. So there are also some additional updates and refreshes in there. Zeb, any of those catch your eye?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always like to see, because for me, Ubuntu is always lagging behind a bit on the LTSs. I like to see the latest kernels in things. So the fact that they're now shipping with 4.18.5 is going to be fantastic. And as soon as I come off my self-imposed non-hopping 30 days, Solus is going to be the first one that I put back on there. And look, Team Red again. They've got out-of-the-box support for the latest CPUs from AMD, although they do say Intel, but including support for high core count CPUs like the AMD Threadripper 2. Yeah. So again, the kernel people and Solus are future-proofing their distro by making sure that all of this support is there before it comes along. And then introducing Intel GVT-G support. Michael, what's that?
Well, it allows you to virtualize your graphics card,
Right, okay.
or use your graphics cards for virtualization, essentially.
And let's face it, most of us, if we've got a powerful graphics card, very rarely use it for all that power. I mean, when you're just sitting there in your distro, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need it for the AAA games. So the fact that it can now improve your virtualization is going to be great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to installing that.
Yeah, this looks like a really cool release, and I'm glad. I agree that it's really good that they did the refresh, because it's before. I don't know if they did one before this, but I know there was at one point there was like a year between their releases for their ISOs, so there was like this massive update that you had to do. And like, I understand people who are already using Solus don't have to worry about those updates because it's rolling, but that when you first do it and you have to install all of these updates, like I think it was like at one point like 700 updates or something.
Wow.
It's like, so
Yeah.
that was kind of it was kind of much. So I'm glad that they're doing that, because I think all rolling distributions should have a release of a refresh at least like once every couple months or so.
Definitely. And for all of you people who are out there panicking about where's Ike, where's he's gone, go and read the release notes and see how many times his name appears against something that's going to be upgraded. So if he's disappeared from Solus and he's not around anymore, who's creating all these updates that have been attributed to Ike?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he's there, he's in the background. He's just obviously not in a position to make himself known again. But trust me, I've been following Ike for years. When he's ready, there will be a big splash. So enjoy the 3.9999. Did I miss any nines there?
There's 4.
I think you got them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on now to my favorite subject, Windows 10.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a new Linux. Hang on a minute. This is is it an oxymoron? What do they call it? A new Linux distro only for Windows 10 users. Hang on. Is it Linux or is it Windows? Go and make your mind up. But apparently,
Linux-ish.
yeah, Linux-ish. They've got a new version of Linux available for the WSL users within Windows 10 called W Linux. And I'm not going to pretend that I even begin to know half of what they're talking about. But if you go to the W Linux website, they're promising to provide all sorts of faster updates and bug fixes, because you're going to have to pay for this version. It's not a free version. So they're going to be helping you keep your Windows as your base, but do an awful lot more on the Linux side of it. So either Michael or Ryan, is this, I mean, I don't think either of you dual boot, do you?
Obviously, by my shirt, i3 Prodigies, we don't dual boot. But Michael actually probably does.
What? How different? Yeah. I multi-boot with various Linux distributions, not Windows.
Not Windows.
Okay. So you're not a filthy dual booter.
No, I don't use Windows pretty much ever. I did have to set up Windows for the macro keyboard that I use, but that's, that wasn't a VM, so I didn't have to deal with actually dual booting. But I don't know why this is important to people, but I suppose like getting updates to the WSL for some people would be good. I guess because if you're a Windows sysadmin and you have to also like administer Linux servers or something like that, that might be useful. But I don't know why you would care about this particular one to get all those tools. 'Cause basically, if you just have like the a closely updated version of these software, that pretty much all the tools will be available. Like it says, it's got Git and Python 3.7, and it's got a ZSH shell. And I don't think people who are not if you're not already experienced with Linux, it doesn't really matter which shell you're using. So
I feel like to me, this feels like they're just targeting people who may be unfamiliar with Linux, want to get it set up, because that seems like the thing to do, and they're so used to paying for an operating system. The fact that they're charging for it just makes sense. And they're just going to go in there and buy it, because you could set all this up using the new Ubuntu WSL with the GUI and everything for free. So in the stuff that they're installing here is nothing difficult to install within Ubuntu itself. I don't know. This to me seems like it's just removing. It's just it's just removing money from Windows users' wallets like they're used to.
Well, what was interesting was I think I mentioned it before that I didn't have a clue what WSL was going to be about, and there was a very good answer for me by one of the listeners, a guy called, or a person called Broken. And basically he said, Zeb, I can tell you the business wants WSL. And this kind of integration with Hyper-V, and as a sysadmin for a Fortune 500 or Fortune 50 company, let me tell you some of the reasons. One, support both platforms using native product tools, no third-party software systems needed. Quicker troubleshooting, which decreases incident to resolution times. Allows admins to plan, develop, test, and deploy solutions quickly. Utilize the same hypervisor on desktop servers, allowing for migration from one or the other with no conversions. He said, I could go on, but I think you get the point. So there are people out there who are Linux enthusiasts that have to administer both systems, and they love this WSL.
Yeah,
so I'm sure they're going to like it.
WSL is fantastic for them. This one, however, what we're talking about here, this paid for WLinux, is not necessary, right? You could go and just use WSL for free, install the Ubuntu GUI, like I said, and you'd be good to go. Here,
it's based on Debian. You could just use the Debian
to offer
version.
you a service of saying, well, we're going to update the WSL features faster than everybody else, based on what?
Yeah, and also because it's based
true.
on something else, you know, or are they going to just fork the existing Debian WSL version and then like patch it on top of it, or like how are they faster than if they're basing on something else and they're not doing the whole thing anyway?
I would think Windows would focus most of its attention on Ubuntu, and the
Probably does.
platforms they're already supporting within WSL versus this. So I don't know. To me, it seems like a cash grab.
Yeah, it probably is, and I think we talk about it enough on this show, so let's go ahead and skip it away.
Move on to something that, again, our Telegram users really, really enjoy.
Oh yeah, totally. There's a lot of people who enjoy it, and they're with a good reason. But there's to be specific, this is a beta, so we're going to put that out front. But the release for Elementary OS Beta 2 is out, so you can try out the Juno, the latest version of Juno. But it is definitely, just so you know, it's beta. It's for developers only, or testers and stuff like that, not for average users. And this is not a review of any kind like that. But there are a lot of things that they've done that are, because they're doing the difference between, even the difference between Juno 1 and Juno 2 are really nice because they have so much extra work added to, like the code application for their code editing and things like that. So it's a good jump to, if you want to try it out, feel free. But it is beta. But the amount of changes they have from Loki to Juno is very extensive.
Yep. So some of those features that they have in the beta are obviously design related, and that makes sense because Elementary is gorgeous and they always focus on the design. So you got a new look for the folder icons. You'll notice if you decide to test this beta, improve workflow in Elementary code app, redesign date and time indicator, and new housekeeping options where you can basically set how files are handled when they're trashed and set up a schedule to clear your files out. And there are a bunch of other improvements as well. Ultimately, this all leading to what will probably be an amazing out-of-the-box experience when it does come out of beta here soon, hopefully.
Yeah. There's actually kind of interesting because they've announced that there's going to be some kind of like changes to the App Center for permissions about what applications are allowed. So you could set and say, I don't want to see applications that, or things that are maybe like not just applications, but things that are violate, for kids, for example. Like if it's just kids, if you're giving a piece of a distro for your child and you don't want to give them access to certain types of applications or whatever, you can set these permissions to set it up, and that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Nice. And it's also good to see that they're continuing to try and make high DPI improvements, although they are saying that at the moment they still haven't got fractional scaling, which if you've used a 4K monitor is quite important because the jump between 1.5 and 2 is quite profound, and sometimes you just need little steps. So hopefully they'll be able to continue to work on that, and they've got some improved photo editing dialogues as well. So that's will probably interest our guest from last week, so maybe they can have a look at that. And something that's music to my ears is LVFS dropped from the default install. Now, I'm thinking, is that the logical volume support, LVFS?
I think that's the way that did the firmware upgrading. I think that's what that is, but it might not be.
Right, okay.
I'm not sure. I don't remember because they didn't really say exactly what the initialism stood for. Because there's multiple ones that use that.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, then we'll drop that subject and move swiftly on.
Well, yeah, I think it's the one thing I want to mention is when the elementary officially drops, or the latest Juno, when it officially comes out, I will be off Telegram for the next week and a half. Because it's all everyone's going to talk about for that time.
Probably. Yeah.
No, it's very exciting. We're excited to see that, and I know a lot of people on our Telegram are as well. So there is competition coming, Michael, for our beloved Kdenlive in the form of OpenShot. They have been doing lots of updates recently. I think they've made it into a couple shows, which is before that, they pretty much never made it to show because there wasn't really many updates going out. So it's neat to see that team really stepping up and adding new features here. And one of those new features that are coming out is animated video masking. So I don't do a lot of masking work myself. You can tell in my videos. There's nothing fancy there. Is that something you use, Michael, on a regular basis?
Yes, I do video masking often. It's mainly for like keyframing things out and stuff like that, and it also allows you to have multiple layer videos, but not having to edit the videos directly, but then merge them together so it looks like they are one video, but they're actually two different ones separating. And you don't have to edit them prior to doing it, and that's a nice way of using video masking. But I'm not sure if they're referring to animated video masking, if that refers to matte transitions or not, because the way they described it is not very, because like there's really
it says it has to have sufficient grayscale for it to work.
Well, see, the weird thing about that statement is that most video masking uses a black and white, just opaque colors, and it's because like the black is automatically disabled, and then whatever's white is what's visible. And so the grayscale, I'm not really sure what they're referring to, other than like wipes use grayscales and stuff. But there is a concept called matte transitioning, which a couple months ago I did a talk about Kdenlive, and one of the things I talked about was matte transitions in the talk. Unfortunately, there was some technical issues, so that video has not been put up online yet, or I'm not sure if it will be ever. But one of the things I talked about is matte transitioning, which allows you to have one video that is like a video masking, where it has the white opaque layers, and then it has an actual like transparent section. So instead of the black, it's just transparent. And what it allows is that you have two videos sitting on top of each other, and you use the matte transition to go from one to the other. And then from the one that's on the bottom, all the transparent values are showing the one on the bottom, and then the opaque values show the one that's coming up the next, like on the top. So like you can transition from one to the other with any kind of animation whatsoever using a matte transition. So it makes it a lot, like there's so much potential you can do with that. And if that's what this is, that is fantastic, because that is a very powerful tool for editing.
And now I know why I just broadcast live, because everything you just said then
right over. Yeah, I mean, definitely broadcasting live though has its own quirks, but for sure. But editing can be really difficult. Kdenlive has been my choice. I've tried to go to OpenShot before, especially recently as they've done their updates, and there's no specific reason why I couldn't use OpenShot for my videos. It's just I get in there, I can do the stuff and figure out the cuts and the overlays and things. But at the end of the day, I've gotten so used to Kdenlive as my video editor of choice here. But I am still very happy to see them adding in new features: reliable exporting, fixing for zooming, title file name duplication, waveform display rendering has been improved, better FPS. So they're doing a lot of great work here. And if you're not stuck on a specific video editor because you've gotten used to it, like myself, then check out OpenShot, check out Kdenlive, see which one you like better.
Yeah, OpenShot's pretty good for people who are novices as well, because it's like a very simple approach, whereas Kdenlive is more focused on like the power user, like getting professional editings and stuff like that done. So like with OpenShot, there's they've been adding more and more powerful features as they go. So but it's really mainly focused for the novice. So that's actually, for a lot of people, that's all they need is just to cut out a couple bits and then render it all together. And if that's what you want, then that's a perfect solution.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now, something else that sounds good as well, and I'm glad this particular topic has come up because I've wanted to ask both of you guys, exactly what they're used for. But Purism launches a Librem Key. Now, what this means is that Purism has launched a new product called the Librem Key. This is due to a partnership with Nitro Key and is said to be the first and only secure key to offer tamper-evident protection to laptop users. And then it goes on to say that the Librem Key is an open PGP smart card supporting up to 4K-bit RSA keys and 512-bit ECC keys. These keys are intended to be used as basic security token functions. What do you use them for and why? Because
you want to take this one, Michael, or me?
Well, I'll go ahead and give like the basics, but since you have more experience with actually using them, you can go ahead and. But what they do is allow you to get like it's more of an authentication system, so that you can log into a system without having to you don't have to remember it and you don't have to type anything in. So you don't have to remember anything, you don't have to type it in, and it's also specific to that particular key. So if you lose that key, then you will never be able to use it again, and you log in for your SSH or whatever. But it also means that if you were to lose it, or you were able to someone to steal it, you could replace the keys and deactivate a particular key, and that way you can have it guaranteed that no one could tamper with what you have because it's specifically to that piece of hardware. If you do not have that hardware, it will not work. So it's a much more guaranteed method of two-factor authentication than using like a text message or whatever.
Right. So would that, if your laptop was stolen, would that make it virtually just a big lump of metal? Or
if you have it set for your login, yeah, pretty much, yeah. It would be.
Wow.
And especially if you have it set to like control the BIOS, if you wanted, if you wanted to have it where even getting access to the BIOS required that key, it would basically make that just a giant paperweight.
Nice.
So these are super cool. So this is the one we're going to talk about a little down. This is a version of YubiKey. Their version, the Purism one, looks like a little thicker version of this. And essentially, if recently in the news, Facebook had 50 million accounts hacked, right? I told y'all. I told you to get rid of your fade. Nobody listens to me. But anyways, it was hacked. And one of the things that they did when they hacked was everybody utilizes their Facebook account to log into other accounts. When you go to that website and they're like, do you want to use your Facebook credentials to log in? And like, sure, because that's easier. I don't want to spend 10 seconds typing out a username. That's too difficult. I want to use the Facebook one. So people do that. And so once you kind of get access to one password, they've gotten access to not only your Facebook accounts, but every other account that you use to log in with Facebook. Now, these things become a little bit more difficult if you have two-factor authentication set up. So for instance, let's talk about Google for a second. You can go in there and you could set up a two-factor authentication with your phone in which you have to type in a code after you type in your password. Well, going to your phone and unlocking it and getting that password and, it's ticking away and I've got to wait for it to refresh to get the new password to type it in can take a little bit. Whereas this key, if it's plugged into my computer, I just put my finger right there and boom, it does the two-factor authentication immediately with that device. So the other thing that's really cool is, listen, you can get a little necklace to loop through it, and you can have a YubiKey on you at all times. And that is official geek swag right there. You can wear it around your neck and look awesome right there. So you have USBs on your keychain and a YubiKey around your neck. But also you've got the two-factor authentication using NFC. So if you have a phone that has NFC enabled and you touch the YubiKey to the back of the phone, you can use it to unlock phone apps as well. So there are a lot of other uses for these. They get more advanced, such as SSHing in the servers and things like that for authentications that you can add in as well. But I think most people, most average users would utilize this for the 2FA authentications and much, much faster.
Yeah, most
I guess And I guess for $60, if you just spent £1,500 or £2,500 on a XPS 15 or something, that additional security that little key would give you is got to be well worth that $60.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean it's a very like it's not that expensive considering how useful it is and how convenient it is. But I would point out that the demonstrations that Ryan was talking about is not for the Librem Key because I'm pretty sure the Librem Key doesn't have NFC support or anything like that. So if you wanted to do that with your phone, like it's really cool. Like if you didn't have NFC, you wouldn't be able to use it to open apps in your phone. But with NFC, you just hold it next to to your phone, and it can automatically do the exact same thing if you plugged it in a computer. So it's a very cool solution to having. It's a much more secure method of two-factor authentication than passwords would be. Because it also allows you to have a one-time password system where the YubiKey itself will automatically push out a one-time password. So you could set up those passwords to be used to log in, once you use it, it'll no longer allow you to get in. So it's even more secure in that way.
Yeah, that could unlock your disk encryption, the screen unlocking, and the Purism one specifically allows you to. It basically has a tamper indicator. And I'm not quite sure how it triggers yet, but basically it will let you know if there was tampering done to your laptop. So if you stepped away, let somebody borrow it, I don't know, had it in an area where it was publicly accessible, when you plug in the key, there's a little light on it that would indicate that your laptop's potentially been tampered with. And so you would have that notification, which is pretty cool.
It's something to do with the BIOS, having some security software on the BIOS. So if anything changes without the key activating and getting into the BIOS, it would be not into the BIOS, but getting into the computer, it would be like what you're expecting. So once you plug it in before the computer even boots, it would be just seeing if there's anything different on the bits from the BIOS. I don't really know exactly how it works either, but that's just basically how they explained it.
The $50 to $79 for these keys is well worth it. As Michael said, think about if you go and buy just a stupid gold necklace that does nothing, right? That's going to cost you $150, $200. Here you get the swag and you get use out of it, right? You can wear it around.
Exactly.
I'm going to have one of each, a Purism and a YubiKey hanging from my neck. Speaking of which, Michael, YubiKey was not going to be outdone, so they launched a new version of their key.
Within just a week or so, right? It was very quick. So they announced the YubiKey 5 series. And this is really cool because I like when they get a video describing what it is, and they're not even saying anything. It's just showing you here's what the YubiKey 4 was like, and here's the YubiKey 4 NFC, and then another version of YubiKey 4, and they just stacked them as now they're all one YubiKey 5. So you get you just get their basic, even the lowest price version of the YubiKey 5 has NFC in it and has a bunch of other things like the multi-protocol supporting thing for the FIDO2 now and stuff like that. It's a pretty good offering because it's this YubiKey 5 standard version is really cool, but they also have the nano version, which is this ridiculously small key that if you put it in your computer, you could barely even see it's there.
You might be able to wear one of those as an earring. It's so small.
You probably could.
I look forward to seeing you wearing one next week then, Ryan.
Of the earrings and the necklace. Yeah, look beautiful.
Yeah, sounds good. So with all this security going around as well, it wouldn't be a show without us bringing you another warning. So, Ryan, what have we got to be on the lookout for now?
How about a UEFI Root Kit found out there in the wild?
Wow. Yeah,
so this is extremely dangerous tool. Has been found out there in the wild to basically attack the UEFI. And it's apparently extremely hard to detect and able to survive most security measures people would take, such as if they found out they were compromised, they would, let's say, replace their hard drive entirely or wipe it, and yet this would still be there because it's attacking in your boot sequence. So some UEFI rootkits have been presented as proof of concepts, but apparently this one discovered actually has been tested and has been proven to do what it says it will do, and it's created by a notorious hacking group, Sednet, which was also made major headlines for the attacks they made against certain government entities during the election. So these individuals have a track record of knowing what they're doing, and this stuff being out there in the wild means other people can get a hold of it. So maybe you're not a political target, but you may be the target of some other hacker or otherwise that wants to go out there and, basically get your information. So this is a pretty, serious threat out there. Mostly seems to be targeting Windows users, but Michael, being that the way this code is operating, I'd assume we'd be just as susceptible in Linux.
Well, in terms of once you're infected by it, it wouldn't really matter because it's not a part. It's a part of the BIOS essentially. Well, the part of the UEFI. So it's a UEFI module. So once that's loaded, it doesn't matter what operating system it's running on. It would still affect you. But it's unlikely that you'll be attacked as a Linux user because they have to first get it access to your system and then put it in there. Windows, there's other issues that Windows people are having that it's more effective to get to infect them. So that's why they're saying that it's more likely if you're a Windows user. But it's not to say that you can't be affected by this. You totally can. And there's other issues that you could.
I wonder if that Purism key would detect it as tampering.
It probably would actually.
I think it would.
That's interesting. Well.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it probably would.
There are other ways you can protect yourself as well from this, such as using Secure Boot, which I haven't used in a while, frankly, because it's never been compatible with Linux distros that I've used. But Zeb, you were telling us Peppermint is leading the way, probably others as well, but Peppermint for sure works.
Yeah, one of the first things that I did when I joined the Peppermint forum back in September of 2015 was the developer was asking for somebody who had a Windows UEFI machine with Secure Boot, and would they mind trying to install, I think it was Peppermint 7 at the time, where they had obtained all the necessary permissions to run under Secure Boot, and yes, it works. So if you're not a distro hopper, but you are dual booting Windows and Peppermint. And as you said, it's been three coming up for 4 years now since they first, introduced all of this. So there's bound to be a number of other Linux distributions that can use Secure Boot.
Yeah.
But most of you, if you are distro hopping, then you're going to have that one that doesn't use it. So I would guess most of us have set Windows up without Secure Boot so that all the other distros do work. But yes, you can run a Linux distro with Secure Boot on, so you'll be safe there. But it seems like it's going to be a hard one to do because I don't think I've updated the BIOS on any of my machines since I blew up a machine back in 1985. I realised that I wasn't that technical. Thankfully, it was a work computer, not my own one. So I just went to the boss. Oh, sorry, Gov, it don't work.
Yeah.
And it was, what did you do? Nothing. I just switched it on. Honest.
Well, now the boss knows the true story.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I don't think he'll be sitting there watching this. He was never into Linux. Although, what was interesting was some of the guys that I used to work with back then in, the mid '80s and the early '90s. Were already starting to get into Linux and showing us some of the stuff that they could do with grep and awk and all the rest of it, and it was amazing even back then. So yeah.
Nice.
Let's be careful of yourself out there and just keep an eye out for these nasty people who are trying to take over your machines.
Yeah, so the reason why Secure Boot works in this case is because the rootkit they're using is not properly signed, so it would throw up a flag and not allow it to work. Also updating, as you mentioned, Zeb, your BIOS could help mitigate this depending if your manufacturer's released patching for this specifically. So that is some options there, and BIOS flashing has become way more simplified and reliable than it ever was in the past. I know I was the same as you, Zeb. I worked on computers. We owned a small computer shop with my dad all my life. And when we'd flash the BIOS, it was like prey. You'd be sweating like, oh gosh, if something goes wrong. But honestly, in flashing BIOSes so many times with new hardware recently, I've never had a single problem since. And you can get certain boards out there now, and it's starting to become standard that have a backup BIOS chip in them in case you mess up your core BIOS. So there are lots of awesome things out there to make it a lot less scary than it used to be.
Yeah. And also now most of them are you just plug in a USB drive and that's how you update the firmware. So it's not even that big a deal. Yeah. Like it's used to be torture. Now it's it's
only a big deal if you have a power outage in the middle of it. So get a battery backup.
Yes.
Have that. Yeah, you should have one of those anyway. I've actually had a motherboard where it fried while the power went out, and it was like a defective line. The entire line had that problem. So if it just power went out while you're using it, dead.
Nice.
It's fun.
Good. Okay, so I just want to put out a disclaimer now that the next section of the show, the Zeb you know and love has been abducted by aliens and replaced. So this
We
next
won,
section,
folks. We won.
This next section, this is not me caving in. This is one of those one in a million games that comes along. That's quite good.
Oh, what was that, Zeb? I'm sorry, my audio cut out. Can you say that again?
I've got a sore throat, mate. I'm getting a bad chest. So we've got a game called Megasphere, and it's been updated for Linux. So Megasphere is an early access action and adventure game that has received a lot of acclaim for those who love side-scrolling Metroid-like adventures.
You could just put everyone there, because
who doesn't love Metroid?
Yes.
Yeah. I've never even heard of Metroid, but anyway, I can remember back in the day playing something I think called Galaxians, where you had a spaceship that started off on the left and things ran at you from the right or came at you from the right, and you had to dodge up and down and shoot them. And I thought, oh God, here we go. It's going to be one of those.
Especially when you saw your name by it, right?
Absolutely. but then I played the video. And the first thing that hit me was the soundtrack, and I thought, yeah, I could zone out to this and listen to this music while I'm getting shot every 2 seconds. And then we got onto the graphics, and although it's an old-fashioned platform game and it's really small and in your usual window where you're moving along, it's not pixelated. It looks a lot of fun. I'm not a lover of platform games per se, but it looks like they've put an awful lot of effort into this. And I have to say, it might actually be something that I will go and have a look at and try and play it, because it looks fun. Ryan, have you played it?
No, I haven't played it yet, but we won, folks. We won. We finally converted Zeb into pixelated games. I got to know, Zeb, when you were scrolling through the document and you saw your name by a game, what was your first thought? That son of a gun did it again?
Well, I read the fact that it was a side-scrolling Metroid-like adventure, and I thought, oh, God, here we go, Doggy Festo. and then when I opened it up, and as I say, and I got hit by the soundtrack and all the rest of it, but I will continue to point you back to the disclaimer. Normal services will be resumed next week.
Don't worry about that disclaimer, folks. Now, I was thinking about Dark One when I saw this, because he loves those cyberpunk games. So the based post-cyberpunk action platformer game. There are lots of new elements each time that you play that get in there. There are tough enemies that they have that get stronger and stronger. You've got upgraded weapons. You've got that beautiful sci-fi look with pixel art, but beautiful pixel art. Like Zeb said, it's very, very well done. You can tell that while it's playing to that pixelated nostalgia, they've taken the most current kind of technology to make it look in coloring and things to make it look beautiful, and you can actually tell things are what they are instead of just circles or whatnot.
Or gorillas.
5 gorillas like last week. Yeah. But what I also liked about it as well is it looked like I'm pretty sure there was some sections of that video where I saw where you actually had to sort of like grab your enemy in a tractor beam and throw him at one of the other enemies to blow them both up to get past. And I thought, well, that's unusual, because normally you just have to shoot the hell out of everything and try and get past. But this way, you were swinging on ropes and having to move stuff around, and you couldn't get past that section until you worked out this little puzzle. Yep. So it wasn't just a random, bang, 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 you're dead forever. It was, you had to start using your brain. So yeah, I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah, platformers on rails that you just keep going and going are not. I agree, those are not as fun. But this style of having a puzzle element to it is one of my favorite types. Like, I'm a big fan of platformers and side scrollers, like Trine and stuff like that. They're fantastic. I'm also a big fan of the next topic, because I am just a fan in general of the genre, as well as the style, like the stylized of the art, and that is Fantasy Strike. And Fantasy Strike is a fighting game like Street Fighter, and it's like a nice cel shaded art style, and you have like each different character has their own special powers and stuff like that. So it's very similar to Street Fighter. But this style is one of my favorite things. But the fact that we have very few, if not just maybe this is the only one I've seen. But
there's just a handful of them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but this is so very few fighting games, and I'm a big fan of fighting games. So this is really cool about this is I looked at this video review that these people did about this game, and it was the people who made the game went to a like a Street Fighter tournament and had them play this. And
oh wow,
yeah, a lot of the players.
That's a really smart idea.
Yeah, and a lot of people at the tournament were like, they were having fun and went back and kept playing it. And they were like, if you added a competitive mode, I would be completely in. It's like
Nice.
I don't know if they're working on that or not, but they said that they have intent to add it at some point. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is an early access game as well. It's got 161 very positive reviews on here. I think it's fantastic art style. I love the character selection with the various, powers each individual has. Everybody looks, very unique and has some unique abilities there. And they kind of tout it as no matter what other fighting game your friends love, have them play this and see if they love it as well, because it looks like they just took a lot of the great ideas from other fighting games and implemented it here. So yeah, I definitely will be picking this game up. It is on my watch list, and it's about $19.99 currently for the early access. So either I'll wait for it to go on sale or for it to come out of early access, but very cool option here.
There's actually one of the things that one of the people that was interviewed about it, they said that they loved the idea that it was really easy to get used to playing the game, and it was like the style was intended to be like easy to pick up but very hard to master. Mm-hmm. So like that adds an extra element to it. So like it's not just a button masher.
Yeah,
great stuff. So now we can leave the Twilight Zone. Get back to, oh, I'm back. What happened? What just happened?
Zeb, you ended up falling in love with a Pixelated game. So there you go.
No, I'm going to have to watch the show back because I can't believe that for 1 minute. I must have caught a virus or something. Ryan, how can I stop getting a virus?
Well, you know how you could stop getting a virus? Installing Clam AV, which happens to be our software spotlight for the week. That transition was beautiful, Zeb.
That was beautiful.
Well done, man. That was pro right there. So Clam AV. So a lot of times there are claims out there that I'll see in certain reviews or just on certain distros. Frankly, I've seen it even on distros putting the page that allude to the fact that Linux is immune to malware viruses. And while it's less susceptible than Windows and other operating systems, it's not really true that it's completely immune to these malware or viruses, which is why things like Clam AV exist. This is a really good solution because it's extremely lightweight. You can run it completely through the terminal if you want, and the commands are not difficult at all. For instance, to update the database for it is just sudo fresh clam, and boom, it updates the entire database of potential threats and things for it to search through. But you can also install Clam TK, which is a nice GUI interface if you want that, ability to just click on graphical buttons to do scans in certain folders and things like that. But it's just a good idea overall to have one of these on your system. And for Linux, it's Clam AV, and it's open source. It's beautiful. I use it. Do any of you guys use an antivirus or malware software?
Not typically.
Perfect. Now I know what I can do to infect you guys.
Well, I also use Linux, so it's okay. Mainly because I like
it's immune, right?
No, it's not immune. I agree with that part. It's not immune. It's not invulnerable, and it's not impossible to get a virus. But it is incredibly unlikely, mainly because of the way it's structured. So if you accidentally download a virus and it doesn't have executable permissions and you didn't activate it, it's not going to activate itself. So
what's the point of downloading stuff if you don't give it sudo rights and executable permissions?
Right. Well, I mean, some people might accidentally click a link in an email or something, and it would be that kind of thing. But even if it gets on your system, it can't do anything because it can't run. So there's that. But overall, I think that it is a fantastic piece of software, and also a lot of people use it for, as far as like sysm and stuff go. They use it for scanning Windows computers and stuff, so from their Linux machine, so they can have it, and they can even. I'm pretty sure they can scan over a network too, which is really cool. But it's a really nice piece of software, and they put a lot of effort into like their marketing for it and stuff. Like I noticed that like very few, like especially command line driven applications, put a lot of effort into their marketing and have like a nice like logo and really good website.
Their
and stuff
logo
like that.
is awesome, isn't
Right?
it? And
It
their
is.
website's so clean. Like they did a
It's-
fantastic job on this.
And
Yeah.
I realize that it's kind of silly for me to point it out, but like a piece of software that's like driven by the command line is like they put that much effort into the polish of the way they present it. Like I just got to applaud them.
I mean, let's be honest. Half of the open source websites out there look like they were made in the terminal. So when you do see this, it is.
it does.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure they must watch the show as well, because that's the exact same face that Ryan pulls whenever he's researching. Let's get a game for Zeb this week, and it's like,
Yes.
"Ew, this little devil comes out and it's we'll get him. So they must have been prompted by you on that one, Ryan.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. And so the other thing this is used for is scanning your mails and various archive formats that it goes through as well. It has a command line scanner, advanced database updater, virus database updated multiple times per day, all of this. And you can donate to this project, but it's otherwise free. So that's quite amazing when you think about how much these things end up costing. And generally they're on a license like the mainstream ones you get for Windows Computer, where you're paying every single year or every 6 months to get those updates, and they're doing all of this there. So if you do use it, consider donating to the project, because it's amazing. You're saving tons of money using it either way, and it's a very powerful tool.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Another powerful tool, but unfortunately it doesn't work on Ryan's games, is something called Xkill. And whilst Linux is very stable, there are times when you need to kill an application that is working incorrectly. And before I came across this command, I used to be one of those people who used to go around, I'm sure it was a pretty stupid way to work it out. I would load up htop, find the application that was at fault, find its ID, then drop back to a terminal and do a kill space -9 and then the UID. Now, I'm sure there's a much quicker way to do it, but hey, you know me, if there's a difficult way, I'll find it. and then someone pointed me to Xkill, and it's like, yeah, run that command, click that window, done. So yeah, it's a fantastic command. As I say, it will kill frozen windows. It just won't kill pixelated games.
It'll kill any window on your machine immediately with forceful termination of that window utilizing a crosshair. So you type in Xkill, you get a little cursor, you move it to whatever window you want, you click on it, poof, it's gone.
It's like a little mini game too.
Yeah, it's like a little. Yeah, I guess you're right, Michael. I never thought of it like that. Yeah, it should have a little score thing at the top.
Yeah, exactly. How many
windows?
How many you've killed today?
Yeah. So
Keep track
not
over
only
time.
is it a great application, it's fun too.
Exactly.
That sounds good.
You'll like to kill a lot of your applications.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what was also fun was this week's show, but unfortunately, we've reached the end. So that's the end of another very enjoyable episode. So, Ryan, have you got a little message for us?
Yeah, big thank you to each and every one of you for the support, for watching us, for listening to us, however you do it. Thank you so much for really standing there beside us and helping us get through all the transitions that we've had in the past. And now we're skating forward with some beautiful content that you guys seem to be enjoying. But that support means so much to us. So we really appreciate it. And also a special thank you to our Telegram group and all those leaving comments on the YouTube for supporting other individuals who come on the show and do interviews and things. Recently, we had Wendy on and people blew up. Like I came back from vacation and gone to Telegram and all I saw was Wendy. I'm like, she's more popular than the rest of us. But it's actually beautiful. It's amazing. I love seeing that type of support and
Yeah, it's fantastic.
encouragement, and we really appreciate that. And Zeb, how can they get a hold of us?
Well, as usual, we have our comments at destinationlinux.org. We have our destinationlinux.org/contact, where you can find out all of the social media outlets where you can get us on: the Telegram group, Discord, Google+, Twitter, etc. And I will just reiterate, send in your emails, ask those questions. We can't necessarily get every single one on the show, but we will pick one, maybe two some weeks if they're noteworthy, and just keep them going, because we do find them very, very enjoyable. And also the fact that you're taking time to engage with us means that maybe we are doing something right. So that's really, really appreciated. Keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, what we need to keep coming is the liking that smash button. And actually, a couple times someone commented recently, "You're going to screw up and not. You're going to say smash that like button." No, I'm not. I'm saying liking that smash button. And also, if you would like to see the show live, you can experience it by becoming a patron by going to destinationlinux.org/Patreon. And if you'd like to help grow the show, you can send out some stuff for social media and stuff like that. So you could post it on Twitter, Facebook, if you have it, even though maybe you should, and Mastodon, things like that. So we would appreciate that a lot.
Nicely. Okay, so everybody, have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Welcome to episode 90 of Destination Linux. This is a podcast of opinions made up by three allegedly semi-intelligent guys discussing our panics. Passion for Linux.
Our panics.
Our panics.
You know what makes me scared? Spiders. Spiders make me scared.
Yeah.
What makes you scared, Michael? Freaking panicking over here.
That's because I say words before I get to them when I'm reading them. So I was saying the word passion, but reading Linux.
Talking about our panics.
That totally freaks me out, dude. Sorry.
We need to take a photo for the thumbnail since we're going to be in
Oh, okay. Yeah. Can we just get my shirt?
You can if you want to. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Are we going to get a position right here? Huh?
You gotta make up your mind first.
Huh? There we go. Huh?
That works. There you go.
All right, so patrons, you can unmute, turn on your video cameras if you want. Hey, it's Dark One and Wendy.
Hi,
Actually, we can't record this with Wendy on it. She's becoming too popular. Michael.
Yeah, she's putting us in the, but making us just like the secondary characters of the show.
Yeah.
Shade thrown.
yeah.
It was a great interview.
It was.
Yep. We even got emails about it, talking about they want more content like that.
Oh,
They should feel free to get rid of Ryan and just have Wendy take over.
I don't recall that part.
Oh, okay, my bad. I must have read it Ryan properly.
But you do always remember the bit in the email where they say Ryan's a great contributor to the show.
Yeah, it's always every email. It's weird.
It's going over and over right now.
How many pieces of wood do they need to cut?
They're cutting PVC.
How much wood can a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Or the harder one, if a gumball could boil oil, how much oil could a gumball boil if a gumball could boil oil?
Wow. Who comes up with these things?
I don't know.
Why would a gumball boil oil? Silliness. Absolute silliness.
It is weird.
Because it can't boil oil. Unless the gumball is made of metal, which then would make it not a gumball.
It depends on what you mean by chucking, though, as well. That doesn't make sense. Is it is chucking a word for chewing, or is it a way for them to pick it up and throw it? How much could they throw? So it doesn't make sense either.
But it makes more sense than a gumball boiling oil.
Well, yes, because
theoretically, a woodchuck could chuck a piece of wood.
What if the gumball is a part of the boiling, and that's how they boil the oil through the gumball? What?
Made no sense.
I don't know.